Hey Bob, how are you today?
Doing great, Ian. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. I'm really excited for our topic today. We're going to be talking about the end of the year, right? And apparently that means something different for different people. And you're going to tell us a little bit about what that means in the professional world. So what does that mean, Bob? What does it mean, the end of year? Sounds very dramatic. The end of year. Well, what does that mean for people in certain professions?
Well, for folks in certain professions, especially in the sales area, end of year brings a lot of anxiety, primarily because you have to finish the year strong. You have to, and especially in sales, you have to, basically you're looking at your quota. Have you made your quota for the year? There's emphasis of looking at your quota, each quarter by quarter, but obviously you want to finish the year strong. You want to be over quota. As a salesperson by the end of the year. You want to make sure all your deals are in, all the contracts are signed, all that the customer agrees to all the stipulations and everything, et cetera, et cetera. In addition to that, you also have a number of deliverables, outside of your maybe your everyday job. Meaning things like planning for performance reviews. Either your self evaluation, or if you're a manager or a leader, you're also then planning for getting feedback from other people, cross functionally, for your team. And so you have to plan for that, and also planning for the next year, any hiring you may need to do, any sort of bonuses that you're planning for, et cetera. So there's a lot of extra stress, that an extra task that are added on top of your regular work from day to day.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I could see how that could be impactful. And what is this additional? What do you see in yourself, in your experience, or with your clients, particularly with ADHD? What does this additional workload or stress mean?
Certainly, there's increased pressure. I mean, there's definitely, especially if you're like not doing, you're behind quota. I mean, obviously, if you're over quota, you're feeling a little bit less stress. But if you're behind quota, if you're still waiting for a few deals to come in, certainly there's more scrutiny on your work. There's more pressure to perform. You may have more meetings. You may have more forecast calls. You may have additional meetings with customers, or with there's a lot of things that can happen, especially if you're not meeting your quota yet. And so that pressure, that focus on performance, can be especially challenging. And then for those of us who are neurodiverse, have ADHD, that can really then throw off our routines. We may have a routine that we set, and we have a certain daily or weekly routine. All of that can be upset by the additional scrutiny and the additional meetings, and again, just the pressure to perform. All of that can be quite frustrating and quite stressful.
Okay, I definitely see how that can shift people's lives.
You know, it,
Yeah,
I want to ask, Ian, from your perspective, just in general,
sure.
for professionals that anyone in a career who has ADHD. What do you what do you see your clients, when additional stress is coming in at work? What are some of the things that you see some of your clients falling into a trap for, or or falling victim to?
Yeah, great question, Bob. So as you mentioned, anytime the routines are changed, goals are shifted, additional stress is put on. Those deadlines become more compound. If there's things that have been, put off throughout the year, all of this adds a lot of extra pressure, a lot of extra stress, a lot of lack of consistency in your day because your routines are off. So adding all that stuff together is a really nice melting pot for a big pile of overwhelm, and some pretty intense avoidance and potential emotional regulation, internally and externally. Um, Dysregulations, which can create some issues for the person or for them, the people around them. Um,
Mm,
and also,
yeah.
mapping this, or trying to navigate all this and continue to keep your relationships going. So can really amplify the people pleasing space, right? When people are coming up to your desk and asking you for things that aren't your normal thing because of this end of year pressure, there can be a lot that can really partner up with that avoidance I mentioned and come together to create a lot of distraction or procrastination that people talk about. So we no longer want to do that really, horrible performance review or tough conversation or numbers analysis in front of us. Well, we're really happy to come over and have this conversation with someone else, and be distracted, or avoid what we're doing. Also when these kind of end of year things where they, it impacts other people, right? It impacts our final measures of success. It's a big, hotspot for perfectionism, right? As well, to make sure I'm doing it perfectly, to make sure I've used the right words or, been completely accurate in my review of myself or other people. So there's a lot of room for those things to amplify these challenges that people with ADHD already deal with.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful stuff to deal with. Yeah, I mean, like, I can certainly relate, and also, from clients hear about the overwhelm. For certain, yeah, the people pleasing, the overwhelm, the pressure, the additional pressure to perform, the additional want to be a perfectionist during this time period can definitely lead to a lot of the feelings that you talked about, for sure. What would you suggest for people who are, again, we're coming into the end of the year and all these things that are starting to pop up on our calendars, and the pressure to perform? What are some suggestions that you could think of based on your experience for people to help deal with this, to help mitigate these things?
Yeah, great question. Hibernate, just go in a hole, hibernate, wait till the summer comes again.
Well, that's really
No,
good.
so the first thing is we got to be really honest with ourselves and with our team, and we're going to do that by creating clarity, right? And this honesty and clarity is going to allow us to navigate these things. So, actually taking a moment, stepping back, pausing, and saying, all right, so as much as I want to avoid all this stuff, what is actually on my table? What is actually coming with this end of year process? What's on my regular to-do list, or my normal schedule, and mapping all of this out, getting it all out on the table, right? Okay, here's the things that are
Right.
happening. You might be, it might be really scary for you, right? But to get all the pieces out on the table. Okay, so for my end of year, for my reviews, I have to do this. For this, I have to do this. Here's my normal schedule, and get it all out on the table. Mind map it. Some people like Excel sheets, some people like certain apps, but we can't leave this stuff in our brain and think, oh, we'll get to it, right? But we need to get it out. So list out, for example, performance reviews. How many people do you need to review, right? Get their names out there. Okay. How long does that review process take? Okay. Is there prep work? Yep. Cool. How long does that take? Do you need to talk to anybody for that? Do you need to get certain paperwork to a certain point before you can do that? Right. And then post, is there a review process? How much time does that take? Right. And just really map out all of these steps. Right. So we can actually look at this and say, okay, where do I have time? Where does this fit in my schedule? Right. But we can't do that until we get that clarity. So, and when you're creating this clarity and this site, it could be overwhelming, this process alone. So don't do it alone. Get out everything you have, not perfectly, just get it out of your brain, get it onto paper, get it onto a spreadsheet, and then find someone you trust, find someone who has experience in this space and say, oh, cool, look, I'm doing this end of year. This is what I have so far. Have I missed anything? Right? Is there any points I've missed?
Yeah.
How do you do this? What have you found to be successful? And talk to people, right? We don't need to do this stuff alone, and definitely don't want to keep all this in our head and just thinking that we're going to sort it out, organize it in our head. So really creating that clarity, get it out of our brains, get it onto paper, get it clear, be honest as far as we can be, and then work with someone and talk to someone. So that would be really the
Yeah.
first step is that clarity. And that's going to allow us to be strategic and to be intentional with our behavior.
Yeah, and that's so. I mean, that I think for me, and also what I hear from clients and such, and my own experience as well, is that the temptation to just sort of not take the time to do that for whatever reason. Either you're too busy, you're too busy or anything like that. But I think, yeah, I think the steps that you listed are very important, and it rings true that to have clarity about what are the tasks in front of you and map them out. I think that's really key. What else? What else could help?
Yeah. So once we have that clarity, the next thing to do is to do something about it, right?
Hmm.
To create a space for it. So now we can see all the things on our list, and it might be overwhelming, right? So we need to start putting it into a calendar or into a strategy that says, okay, my normal work takes this much time. These interviews take this much time. Where do they fit in my calendar, right? And we can
Yeah.
actually start mapping them in. And if it looks unachievable, then we need to ask for help, right? We need to start that conversation earlier. We need to communicate that with our team. We need to communicate that with our supervisor. And so we can adjust our priorities accordingly, right? Or delegate something to someone, or find out something. You might bring up the conversation, find out actually you don't need to do that. That actually doesn't need that level of perfectionism or that much attention, or someone else is welcome to
Yeah.
take something on, right? But we can't do that until we're honest, till we create clarity and start mapping that into our space. Because otherwise we just run into that those last minute horrible conversations about, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. And we hide, and then we avoid, and you know, all that emotional stress, all that energy takes up time and it takes up space, and really triggers that avoidance. So first step, clarity. Second step, creating space. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that's where I would say to start.
Yeah. That was really key especially when you said that many times, or sometimes, or even many times, if it's in our head, that level of perfectionism, just what you said there. It's like that effort, that task, is likely not going to need that level of perfectionism. Just I think that really resonated with me, and also from my experience, and also from clients, is that just get it done. It doesn't have to be perfect, and a lot of times it's if you obsess about it and not do it, it's worse than just doing it. Maybe it's not perfect, but it's done, and it didn't need that level of perfectionism, as you said. I think that really resonated with me hearing that. Um,
So
yeah,
what have you seen, Bob, in your experience, as a leader in organizations and working with your clients? What have you found to be, a differentiator to navigate this end of year process?
I think I would add on to what you said already. I think that's again, clarity and creating space, creating margin, as it were, for those tasks. I think the final thing is just don't forget yourself, taking care of yourself. That is so important, because that's like the first thing that that tends to go, is that, oh, I don't, I've got to get this thing out. I got to get this report out. I can do with 4 hours of sleep. And I'm just gonna go grab. I've got it. I'm on the road. I'm gonna go grab McDonald's, or I'm gonna go. I'm not exercising. Those things tend to go out the window when you're under stress and under all this pressure, and it's really tempting to do that. And I urge clients, and I tell myself as well, don't do that. Obviously, once, one time, it's things happen, travel delays, whatever that is. But as soon as you can, get back on the horse, get back on your routines, get 7, 8 hours of sleep, eat well, go out and get some exercise, do meditation, whatever it is, and you should have some routines already coming into this, but maintain those. And because when you are so tempted to work and focus on that and not on yourself, you're not bringing your best when you're having to deal with that extra pressure. So I think it's remembering not to to resist the temptation
Mm,
to operate on 4 hours of sleep each night and to not eat well. Just resist that temptation and take care of yourself.
mm. Yeah, great point, Bob. We doesn't matter if we, create all the clarity in the world and create all the space to get this stuff done if we don't take care of ourselves, if we don't have, as you said, you don't take care of your sleep and your diet and your exercise. And it's absolutely true. Those fundamentals are so important. And I would add to that as well that, this might be a short period of time at end of year with additional stress. Let's be kind to ourselves and patient. And, maybe you need to make an augmented, or an alternative like end of year exercise program, right? Because it might not fit your old schedule. It might,
right.
These sleep, these kind of fundamentals, we can make shifts in them so they fit our new schedule, right? And our new
That's a great
demand,
point.
right? But as you said, they're absolutely fundamental. You need to have them in there. Bob, thank
for
you.
Sure.
Thank you so much. I think people find this really valuable. And so if people want to learn more about end of year from you, Bob, how would they do that?
Well, great, Ian. Again, thank you for the time. I think this was fantastic. So for me, anybody's interested in speaking with me, you can reach me at bob@bobpal.coach, and definitely would be glad to talk to anyone regarding end of year, any sort of stress, especially in the technical sales or pre-sales. That's my background. I was in pre-sales for over 20 years as an individual contributor and as a manager leader. So I definitely get it, get with the pressures that people are experiencing. So again, it's bob@bobpal.coach.
Wonderful. And if anybody else wants to speak with me about ADHD coaching, like Bob said, end of year stuff, anything, reach out to Ian at ADHDcoaching.life or check me out at ADHDcoaching.life. So I hope everybody found this valuable. Please take care, be kind to yourself, and have a great end of year.